Good evening, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about consent in this video, in particular one part of the device that I've mentioned in my other videos. If you've watched those, you're familiar with what consent is. It's a 5-part device, one way to look at it, and I think it's a very helpful and accurate way. I've thought a lot about this because it applies to everything, especially legal justice, where crime is defined by damage outside of agreement. And it calls into question what is an agreement. And it's also important for determining things like, whether or not something is appropriate or called for or within a scope or protected. So I want to review the device really quick. It's a 5-part device, like I said. It's super simple. It won't be long. And I want to go over specifically the last part because I think it has the biggest opportunity for clarification. To review, the first part is wherewithal. Wherewithal is having an understanding of the central proposal and its effects moving forward, not just today or tomorrow, but ongoing, the proposal and its central effects. The second part is consciousness. That is, not being in a coma, not being asleep, not being under the influence beyond a point of drugs or alcohol, where you are demonstrably able to speak for yourself. Consciousness is the second part of the device. Third part is brevity, and this is mainly for written agreements. Brevity is to address the abuse of making a huge contract where things are slipped in, the small print. You've heard of the small print. This fixes that problem where the contractor agreement has to be digestible, easily digestible, without special training, without knowing legalese or being a lawyer yourself or having to hire a lawyer. A contract that is not easily digestible or is overly verbose or voluminous would not be valid under this device description. The fourth part is the most important, really, and it's also poorly understood, I think, and that's the consent itself. Why it's listed separately is because consent can be implied, as in it was not stated or written down or signed to, but it still existed, or it can be expressed, that is, in the form of a written agreement or a verbal agreement, but it can also be even retroactive. You can say, hey, in the moment there wasn't time to go over all the details, but looking back I had no qualms or hesitation whatsoever. I'm 100% for it. And if you maintain that position, that's valid consent. It can be retroactive. So that's why it's listed separately. But the fifth part, and that's the point of this video, the fifth part is another abuse mitigation step, and that is no riders. What does that mean? No riders. It means no group consent. You cannot have a whole bunch of items combined into a single agreement. Each agreement, if it is valid by this definition, has one item, one central proposal, logically separated from other things, and that might be up to a judge, so there's no hard rule about it. If you think that maybe you're combining things, then separate them. It's real easy. So err on the side of caution with this one. But no riders means you aren't required to do other things. You aren't required to say, provide sexual services in exchange for your groceries when you buy groceries. That's a big graphic example, but that proves the point of why it would be inappropriate and why it is always inappropriate for group consent to happen. And now here's the point. My video, this point is an exploration of this last step, because it turns out when you really examine this part, something emerges from it. And it exposes something that is hugely common, but still improper, very, very improper, and that is terms of service. I want to go over terms of service and how it fits in with this fifth part of the device. Terms of service, we've all seen them. Click the agreement button, scroll through this, big or small agreement. It can be legible, and maybe it's not legible, maybe it's 200 pages long, whatever, but either way, terms of service for public-facing free services especially, but not necessarily free services, is inappropriate, because when you're combining proposals, what do you have? You have group consent. You're either saying that you have to do things to be a member of this group in addition to the service that you're signing up for, or you're saying that there's, you know, hidden text, there's hidden things added on that you're just expected to know about, and that is an unsupportable deal breaker. It is, and it's listed separately for that reason. No riders, no group consent, which means no terms of service, ever. And I think this kind of gets us back online. It does. If this device is followed, it clears up so many things. It clears up the age of consent, where somebody may not have wherewithal, and if you're riding close to that line and somebody complains, you're going to have to, you know, tell a court why this person had wherewithal, and then they might judge you and rule whether or not this person was able to consent. And right, you know, currently we have a broken system. Let's just not go there at the moment. This is just an idea. And you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to subscribe to it, but it's an idea that fixes that problem, where, you know, some people mature faster than others, so it addresses that issue, but also the issue of people being required to do things in exchange for other services that may be, you know, essential services, vital services that you need to survive. And in fairness and truth, many of the tools you sign up for online or elsewhere through the government or through, you know, independent contractors or third parties, businesses, they require you to do things now. They require you to divulge certain information. They require you to cooperate with, you know, censorship policies and practices. They say, well, it's our company policy. You can't use any of our stuff, even though you need it to survive, without agreeing to the terms of service. Right now, you've heard this, and it has become normal. It has become normalized, but it is no less appropriate. Just because something is popular or normal or common doesn't mean it's proper, doesn't mean it's justifiable, and in this case, terms of service are wildly improper. It represents a crime, in fact, if those terms are requiring you to do anything that you did not also agree to, or if they try to pin it to you later on or cut you off. You see, it really does boil down to the service enjoying the visibility of public access. If it's going to do that, if any service, a website or a government service, is going to enjoy the visibility and the popularity that comes with being public access, that's random by anybody in the public, they have to abide by basic human rights with that service. There are no you know, exceptions to empowering people to speak freely, allowing people to speak freely. For example, it's a basic human right. It's legally described in this country in our founding documents, but it doesn't need to be. The documents reflect the reality that it is a basic tenet of civilization, and we have learned this. Our founding fathers described it very well. Freedom of speech is just one of those things that is inalienable. What does inalienable mean? It means that whether you steal the document, the Constitution of the United States, whether you set fire to it, it's inalienable. It doesn't matter. Because it has been discovered and established that these rights cannot be taken away from you, no matter what, no matter who says otherwise, no matter what terms of service say otherwise. And we have gotten very far away from respecting civilized practices, where people are signing up, but as individuals, between themselves and other individuals, somebody has to be accountable for that company. There has to be somebody who is ultimately responsible, not some, you know, oligarchy that can just dissolve on a whim. That's not supportable either. So an agreement is between individuals. It is one proposal at a time, and the other steps I said: wherewithal, consciousness, digestibility or brevity, the consent itself, and no riders, no group consent. I'm just under 9 minutes. Okay, so I think I did pretty well. It's a lot of information, but I think that this is on point, and this may, God willing, be the basis for a very simple and very effective and very fair legal system at some point. If only in a fictional novel, but I hope in reality as well. Reach out if you like with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.